All right, on today's Thursday edition of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, we look at how you can look at a spring game and actually be meaningful because the actual result and the team stuff doesn't really matter. We'll tell you how to watch it. And also, Cara McCutcheon joins us for her weekly perspective on all things Ole Miss and around the country. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining us. And today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. Also, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So do us a favor, hit subscribe. You can also hit the bell for notifications of when new videos go up, which is actually quite frequently. And of course, you can upvote the video itself. Remember, if we hit 1,000 subscribers before football season, a live post-game show, a post-game live, is in your future with Ole Miss Legends. We already have one that has said yes, and we're trying to get another one as we speak. So it should be a lot of fun. All right, now, the thing you need to know is the Grove Bowl is this weekend. Tomorrow we'll do another extra and the show for Friday and all that with Tom Vanderford. And yes, that's going to be fun. But today we're going to talk about how do you need to watch the Grove Bowl. It is true. You do not need to look at team. It is true. You do not need to look at 11 on 11. You do not need to look at the score. That does not matter. None of it. It is a made-for-TV event, nothing more. But there are bits and pieces that you can look at that is actually valuable. How Luke Altmyer runs the offense downfield, how explosive he can be. Jaxson Dart, can he be efficient? How does he look running the offense? Those are things that you can actually tell about, and it doesn't matter who the receivers are. The operation of the offense is going to be the same no matter who's going on. They're going to have the same targets. You're going to be able to see one and another and how they look playing the position. Zach Evans, you can see the vision, the special gifts, the flashes that you can more than expect from somebody of his caliber. Ulysses Bentley the fourth, you can check his explosion, his speed. Wide receivers, do they get separation? Do they not? Especially the outside guys. Pay attention to the inside part of the offense, the slot receiver and the tight end, and how Ole Miss is using them. On each play, you can look at the tight end and the slot receiver, and most of the time they're doing that or that. And you can judge a little bit of what the offense is going to look like, especially in that death triangle, I call it, the tight end, slot receiver, and the tailback. That's where 90% of our offense is going to exist. The other 10% is Lane Kiffin shot plays. And I am sure that these new analysts that have come in have brought in some passing concepts used by Graham Harrell at USC, stuff that makes Jaxson Dart more comfortable. If he wins the job, look for some of those concepts to appear. If you see some stuff that looks a little bit different, is it because the USC analysts are in, Steph Daggy and such, or is it a Charlie Weiss Jr. thing? Who's calling the plays in this game? Is probably going to be Charlie Weiss Jr., honestly. And Chris Partridge, this is the first game. Even though it's against us, he's calling the defense. So are they scheming? Now, we also need to pay attention to how they're setting this up. Now, they're going to want Jaxson Dart and Luke Altmyer to have the same number of reps with the ones and the twos. I mean, that's just common sense. So I don't see a situation to where they divide up and pick teams. I don't think they have enough players for that. So you're going to see the 1 and the 2 offense go against the 1 and the 2 defense. And the timing and stuff like that essentially does not matter. But there is going to be a 2-minute situation. There is going to be a 4-minute situation and stuff that you can count on and how you would take these quarterbacks operating the offense. The main thing we need to see is the stuff that they did not do well this spring. This is what I want to see. Like I said, I don't care if Jaxson Dart goes 12 for 17 for 60 yards and no touchdowns in the spring game. I want to see him be efficient. I want to see that he can, to prove to me that he can be efficient. He doesn't have anything to prove to me, but that's my point. I want to see what's going on. We know that he can be the Brett Favre gunslinger down the field. We know how tools he is. We know all the stuff he can do. I want to see him do the simple stuff. Stuff that is going to be open and readily available for most of the time against the opponents we play. I want to see that. Luke Altmyer, I want to see him be a gunslinger. I want to see the Brett Favre and Luke Altmyer come out. I want to see him take chances. I don't care if Luke Altmyer is 10 for 21, 170 yards, and 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I want to see it happen. The reason is I want to see both of these guys come out of their comfort zone and what they do normally in a game situation that doesn't mean anything. This is the last chance for both of them in a game situation to get it out of their system, to try things, to work stuff out. And I want to see that both of them can do that, honestly. And I think that'll go a long way into positioning them in the fall. And the position at the beginning of the fall could tell everything about the quarterback position and this quarterback competition, honestly. I mean, it should be a lot of fun, honestly. Our next partner has a product I literally use every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system. I hated taking pills, and it's a bunch of stuff. I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great and wanted to see what all the hype was about. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. So, right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/college. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/college to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. That's Athletic Greens. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Now for a big announcement. Starting Thursday, April 28th, tune in to Locked On NFL Drafts, live coverage of the 22 NFL Draft with all 3 days of real-time analysis from our extensive lineups of experts and insiders. I think I'm slated to pop on there day 2, believe it or not. I'm going to talk a little Matt Corral. And for those you dying to know who your team will take, catch Audacity and Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special, hosted by Brian Peacock and former scout Matt Williamson of the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show all week leading up to the first pick. Where can you catch it? That'd be on the Locked On NFL Draft YouTube page and the Audacity and Locked On NFL Draft podcast feeds. When? The Locked On NFL Draft Live, you can catch April 28th, 29th, and 30th at various times, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Eastern, and 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Also, you can catch the Audacity NFL Mock Draft on April 18th through the 22nd, which means it's already there, and the 25th. That is the big announcement. It should be a lot of fun because I'm going to pop on and talk some Matt Corral and Ole Miss and everything else during that broadcast. Should be a lot of fun. All right. We're talking about how you should watch the Grove Bowl. And it's not exactly an exact science. It's not anything that is, exact. But you can watch the game in an analytical way, even if you don't know what you're talking about. But you just need to focus on these areas. The offensive line, I'm not overly concerned with the offensive line. I'm not overly concerned with the defensive line. Yes, I'd like to see them do that. The defensive line typically beats the offensive line in spring games. I want to see the linebacker position, what they look like, the young guys that are coming in. I understand that Troy Brown is not an option right now. But I want to see the new guys like Ladarius Tennyson, how physical he is. He kind of stepped up filling that Jake Springer role in spring practice. I want to see what he looks like moving forward. Now, in this 3-2-6 defense, it is imperative that our hybrid players, which honestly there are two of them, they take out the 3 technique, they take out the outside linebacker, and they create 6 defensive backs that occupy essentially space with a 3-man front. That's what happens. That's how it plays. That's not exactly what's going on, but the player that is gone from the defensive line, when you look at the type of players, is the 3 technique. The nose guard is still there. But Ladarius Tennyson at a hybrid position. I want to see if Otis Reese moves down and plays another. I want to see if Tysheem Johnson moves down and plays another. I want to see what the defensive backfield looks like, even with all the twists and turns and switching that each of the players do. I want to see the corners, because that's a low-key thing that we need to look forward to, honestly. Jalen Jones played a bunch last year. DeAndre Prince and Miles Battle, I have no doubt that they can do the job. None whatsoever. But I need to see it happening. I want to see also Markevious Brown and MJ Daniels and those guys and see if they've taken a step. I want to see if any of the freshmen, like Trey Washington, has taken a step. Then you've got Davison Igbinosun. Did he take a step? And these are all big questions surrounding this defense. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It honestly is. And that's how you need to watch the Grove Bowl. Not 11 on 11, not a score. It's very individually based. It's not even unit based at this point. It's individually based. But you just pick a player on a snap and look what he does. That's why. Don't fall for the trap of just following the ball unless Zach Evans or Ulysses Bentley has it. But I am curious of what's going to go on with these guys. It should be quite interesting. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports information. Find all your latest sports developments, league news, and this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. You can say whatever you want to say. You can say Steve is an idiot, but give us a 5-star review, please. That'll help others to find the podcast. Anyway, I'm here with Cara McCutcheon. We're going to talk about Ole Miss Sports. We're going to get her perspective in her weekly feature on this show. How you doing, Cara?
Doing good. Happy to be back.
Yes. I hope you are feeling a lot better after last week. I'm at the point where I'm at the age to where I wake up in the morning with a pulled muscle that I did not go to sleep with. That's what you got to look forward to.
Yeah, I ended up having a pinched nerve in my shoulder. I got a little ambitious with my weight, so thankfully much better now.
All right. Today, and in this edition of Your Perspective, we're going to talk about expectations. And there's an article that was released today that listed Ole Miss as the main threat in the SEC West to Alabama. And it talked about in it why it happened and the expectations of doing that, even though all of this turnover is happening. And I thought it was a pretty interesting article, Cara.
Yeah, I think, Lane carries his weight, and our offense looks great on paper. We have a really star-studded offense. I'm super excited to see in the Grove Bowl. I think the biggest question there is the defense. And the one thing the article pointed out is in today's age, you don't need that defensive standpoint really. You just need them to be good enough. Like, they don't need to be stellar. But I kind of disagree a little bit, because if you look at Georgia and the way Georgia has formed, like, they were really defensive heavy and offensive kind of was a little weak. And same with when Nick Saban started at Alabama, he was real defense heavy and then kind of started moving the offense. So I'm kind of interested to see this play out and what they were kind of talking about. Personally, I think we need to see some defensive line improvements before we can kind of see what's going to happen against Bryce Young in that offense.
Yeah, and the deal with the expectations of the game, it is, like I say all the time on this show, it is one thing to be talented, it is quite another to be good. And that's what we're going to, and that's what we're trying to get to. So the potential for us to do that is there, but we still have to put in the work to get there, Cara.
Exactly. And I think we see this everywhere, one of the things, as most of you know, we talk about is I'm in these spaces on Twitter and I talk to different fan bases, and we see this kind of with Texas. Texas fans have already decided, oh, Quinn Ewers is it. We're it. They are under the impression that they went 5-7 last year, but that is over. They have these players now and these dynamics. And I think one of the things also is the transfer portal, is you have all these guys that come in and transfer. You have these recruits that haven't really gelled yet. They're starting to kind of get a rhythm together. They're starting to kind of get to know each other. So it's really hard when you have that kind of dynamic to just come in and win 9 and 10 games, when half your people are kind of not experienced under Sark or under the coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the fact that USC is a top 10 team next year, just because they got Lincoln Riley and a quarterback that did not win his conference last year. And all of this going on, all of a sudden USC, who was 4-8 last year, is a top 10 team. And, Texas is appearing in the top 10. And people tend to overhype based on what they think should happen. No real evidence to what's going on. Just okay, this team should be good because this is happening, so we'll put them there. Because it's so early now, it's really hard to take these rankings seriously.
Yeah, and two, also, I think one of the things when you see what they're talking about with the quarterback battle for Ole Miss, and they talk about Dart and Altmyer, and they're kind of saying oh, Dart, the efficiency, or these things aren't there. And Luke has a little more dynamic of getting the ball here and there. But some of that also is Luke has a little more experience in the system. So it's not really a to Dart's skill. It's just sometimes when you have that experience level in that offense and you're learning it, and you can kind of do the more it's not saying that Dart doesn't have that skill and can't proceed on. It can all just be system driven and learning the system.
Yeah, and also I like to point this out to everybody about this quarterback competition. Luke Altmyer's 2 significant playing time games was at Auburn, which is one of the most notorious hard places to play in this league, and in the Sugar Bowl against a legit top 10 defense. And I'm sorry, but that's a little bit different from playing on the road at Washington State and playing on the road at Arizona State. And he might have 4 games of significant experience, but it's kind of weighted a little bit. And experience in the system plus those hard choices that he had to learn during the game really, gave him a little bit edge up whenever this whole spring has been about him closing that gap. And if he did, he would be in fine shape come the fall, because this was always going to go to Labor Day. But that gives you reason why Luke Altmyer is doing as well as he's doing. Not just that he knows the system, but that he has performed against decent defenses and played in hard environments. That's really kind of steeled him a little bit.
I agree. I think one of the biggest things, just talking about the growth ball coming up, that I'm really excited to watch is the defense. I really want to see where we are defense-wise. I want to see how we are on the line, just kind of things we're doing, where we're putting pressure, what we're doing in the backfield. Very, very interested to see how that goes.
Yes, and I've talked about in the Grow Bowl a couple of times, the things that I'm looking for is that I want to see Jaxson Dart just run the offense. I don't want him to see him do anything special, anything downfield. If he's 12 for 17 for 60 yards, I consider this a Grow Bowl win. Now, I want to see Luke Altmyer. I want to see the opposite. I want to see him attack downfield. And if he's 10 for 21 for 170 yards, I'm going to be okay. I want both quarterbacks to get a little bit out of their comfort zone and what's going on. Yeah, that's my puppy dog.
So, yeah, I don't know with this quarterback situation. Lane's been very transparent about it, which has been nice to kind of see. I don't think we can go wrong here, to be quite honest. Looks like Trey has just been an outstanding in his showing. I haven't seen much on Evans, so I'd be interested to kind of see how he is in the Europe Bowl, but I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, there's so many different facets. And remember also, whenever looking at this team offensively, the emergence of Zach Evans makes the quarterback position kind of look a little different than it has the past couple of years and what is required. What Ole Miss needs is efficiency and the hold on to the football, because they're beginning to stack playmakers around the quarterback position, unlike we've seen.
Very loaded. I've heard Mingo and Dart, though, have been kind of had good chemistry. So interested to see that there. I'd like to see, let's be honest, we don't really, Lane's not really one to kick. So specialty, or in that field goal thing, be nice, because we don't usually sometimes have the best in that area. But Lane's not really one for the field goals, so.
Wait, hey, they picked up Jonathan Cruz and his Cruz missiles, and he's 7 of 8 for field goals over 50 yards in his career. So that's a nice one-year stopgap after Caden Costa found the performance-enhancing drawer, the do not enter drawer at his mom's house or whatever's going on there.
I think this season we're going to see a lot of I think with our schedule, we have a really nice schedule for a new team to kind of start gelling. We don't hit the ground running, so we have a really nice kind of relaxed kind of schedule to get kind of into the groove before we play Kentucky. So we'll see. Before we can really make predictions, though, I guess we have to see the first few games or have any expectations really.
No, I'm of the opinion that expectations and how you want to happen and whatever's going to happen, if it doesn't hit, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't affect you any more than you let it. It's like a self-built prison, when it comes to that. And people that say suffering makes you a greater fan of a team one way or another, I think that's stupid as well. And because of that, I think it's okay to be really hyped up about this offense. I think it's okay to have really high expectations. If they go 8-4, so what? It doesn't matter. Now, if they go 6-6, there might be a little bit of a problem there. But, I think it is okay to expect 9-10 wins the coming season, as hard as it's going to be in the SEC.
Yeah, I think that second tier of our schedule is going to be a little tough. I think but I think if we use that first part to kind of get these going, if we can start getting hot and hit a nice start, I think we have a few in there that I think Arkansas will probably be pretty tough, especially there. A&M might be tough in A&M. I don't know right now with A&M. I don't know how many freshmen are just going to come out the gates and just kill it, but there's a first for everything. But I think just a couple of those on the schedule well, just because we're away, might be a little bit tougher in those environments. A&M's a really hard environment to play in. It's loud. It's very distracting. There's a lot of stuff going on outside the field. So,
well, I got a question for you. On Twitter today, it made the rounds, and everybody kind of retweeted it, including Eric Dickerson. There's a recruiting graphic by SMU that had the trans A&M on it.
I haven't seen it yet.
Do you know about the trans A&M?
No, I haven't seen this yet.
During Eric Dickerson's recruitment, Texas A&M apparently bought him a gold Trans Am. This is days before signing day. He ended up signing with SMU and drove his new car up to SMU and had it around, and they called it the Trans A&M. And SMU put that on a recruiting graphic that basically said SMU is back for the NIL lifestyle. And it is absolutely hilarious. And Eric Dickerson tweeted back and said, "Nice car."
That's pretty great.
Yeah, the 80s era of SMU was a very, very special period. And anybody that hasn't seen the 30 for 30 on Pony Excess, I highly recommend watching that. It shows how dirty the Southwest Conference was back in the early 80s and the lengths that SMU had to go to meet payroll and the hole that they dug themselves in just to keep it going. It's a pretty good deal, and it's also a little bit of a warning shot for people that think these NIL collectives are going to be sustaining and really you can go back to that well every year because they had a contract to keep, it ate up money, and all of a sudden you didn't have any. So,
as far as the NIL, if you look at this Lane versus Tennessee now, like Tennessee fans think Lane is, I think Lane's just commenting in general. On the NIL, he's been pretty open about it, but in his new one, he's talked about Tennessee, and that's caused Tennessee to kind of fans that kind of say like, oh, he misses he knows he messed up, and I think it's pretty interesting to see all these Tennessee fans are still pretty stuck on Lane Kiffin and think Lane is just very much enthralled with them still.
Oh, I don't think Lane cares one bit about anything that's going on, whatever's going. He's going to use them for an example because they're the dumbasses that paid $8 million for a 5-star high school quarterback. And that's the only reason that example came up. If Texas A&M had done that, he would have used Texas A&M. If Kansas would have done it, he would have used Kansas. But Tennessee basically has their Lane Kiffin decoder ring, and they look for everything they say in a reference to them. It's like, see, he wishes he wouldn't have left. And it's like, he's had 3 chances to come back. He hasn't. Don't worry about it. Get over it.
Yeah, it's funny just to see that. Like, every little day is like, oh, Lane's in love with us. And I was like, I think he would have probably used that if it were anybody. Like, I think he's just trying to use that example to his point. I don't think he actually cares.
Really the one school he doesn't poke is Georgia. For whatever reason, whenever he goes through whatever he's doing, he doesn't really poke Georgia. He's done the little thing with Kirby Smart as Nick Saban's baby, as like a proud papa type thing that he did, but he doesn't really poke them. I don't know if it's because he doesn't see Georgia often, or he doesn't necessarily want to poke that bear, or what's going on. Maybe he just genuinely likes Kirby Smart. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think he does a little with Saban, but he still like picks his battles there. So I think, when it comes to Georgia and Alabama, he kind of takes a little bit of a step back.
Yeah, I think maybe he picks battles with people he can win, he can beat. If they ever come up there, all of a sudden he knows he has a shot. Like with A&M this year, this is going to be Texas A&M Super Bowl because of all the signing day and sliced bread and the whole 9 yards surrounding that, and everybody blames Lane Kiffin. So A&M Super Bowl is going to be that Ole Miss game. If Ole Miss beats A&M, I mean, you just talk about all the air going out of that balloon, everything in that freshman class, and it's just going to have an interesting effect on things.
Yeah, I love though how he kind of pokes at the guy in Missouri too, even though
Drinkwitz.
And Draco is like, I don't really know when we're actually going to play Missouri again, but they're not really in our rotation a lot. But he kind of pokes a little there too. Definitely posed LSU, Brian Kelly. So I think he adds in that fun little flair a little bit. Just this is fun. Like, I like to see him and Leach interact. They're pretty funny with each other.
Yeah, and people need to realize that college football is not that overly serious. And Lane Kiffin does not take it overly serious. He does what he's supposed to do. He puts a good product on the field. But the extra stuff to where fans have to hate other fans and this big performative thing, he doesn't do that. I genuinely think him and Mike Leach are friends.
Oh, yeah, you can see their interaction. I think they all kind of have a little bit of like, they joke with each other and they kind of go back and forth. Jimbo's the only one I've seen who's gotten a little testy with it, but the others, like, you're always like, he just fires right back, and it's usually pretty funny.
You know what Jimbo reminds me of? He reminds me of the politician that plays this very folksy down-home attitude, and I'm going to get this done exactly like you, but then you find out that he has $3 billion. And that's what Jimbo Fisher reminds me of.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he gets angry over the fact that people said his NIL chest was bigger than everybody else, and that's why they did well in recruiting. He actually argues against that, whenever he should be saying, yeah, and? Yeah,
exactly. Like, what does it matter?
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're not doing anything illegal. We're doing exactly what we could do. The difference is, right now in recruiting, and this is the honest-to-God truth, they're the powerful recruiters, the traditionals, the Alabamas, the Georgias, schools like that have always done it, and they're the status quo recruiters. You've got the NIL superheroes like Texas A&M popping up, and other collectives are going to pop up that way. And you have the transfer portal recruiters like Ole Miss that are building a third way. There's 3 different ways to build teams within college football, and I think that's insanely interesting.
Yeah, I think like this dynamic, one of the things that'll be really interesting to kind of see this year is how it all plays out, right? Like, obviously, I would say one thing for Jimbo that they might not want to share, because if this just busts, like all the, because I think it's been mentioned before with like basketball teams and stuff, like they have all these powerhouse like players and then it just busted. So it didn't actually end up working out as well. So I think when you look at what A&M's doing, they're bringing all these 5-stars, and like they might be paying them. Like if this bust, like people are gonna come back and be like, well, paid all that money and you got nothing. So I don't know if I would want to tell people like, oh yeah, of course we paid, like, because then on that turnaround, if this doesn't work out and you're not getting a championship, like you're not getting a return on investment, people are going to be like, wow, you paid all this money. And so I think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see with the transfer portal, like, oh, you brought in all these transfer portal guys. You kind of like didn't do as much in the recruitment aspect. You kind of brought in all these transfer, and just like, does that dynamic work? So I think it's going to be interesting this year to kind of see all those different things play out. Because
people that don't want the status quo in college football and doesn't want Georgia and Alabama every year duking it out needs to hope the NIL thing pans out to where more teams recruit well and can take numbers away from Georgia and Alabama, so more people are good. And the transfer portal provides even more people with players. So you could have 12 or 13 teams competing in where you used to have 4. And I think that would help the parity of college football, and that would ultimately be good for the sport. If, and I say this if, we have a tendency to overdo things, and there's a chance they could go too far with this NIL thing. There's a chance that people could go too far with the transfer portal and end up actually doing harm. That is my concern. And, generally in football and everything else, people have a tendency to overdo it, and they only stop when they have to because it's blowing up in their face. And I think eventually we might get to that point.
Yeah, I think eventually we'll see a lot of things in there of caps, like teams that programs that don't have as much income as others. I think eventually you'll see some sort of cap, but when will we get there? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Tune in tomorrow for Tom Vanderford and his weekly segment on the podcast. Tune in for that. Now make the second listen, Locked On NFL Draft. Ron Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Cara, thank you very much for joining us. Always a highlight of my week whenever you join and talk about things going on. I look forward to next week, and hopefully we can talk a little bit about the Grove Bowl and have a little bit of a visual of what we can judge off of.
Yeah, thank you so much, and as always, hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.